We are. We did execute an agreement with Rentschler Field for the 5 games that we'll play here, and we're interested in entering a multi-year deal, although I think next year's agreement will include some participation in a new surface if we reach those agreement on those issues. For this year, playing 5 games at the home field should not have any damage to the field, and of course if it does, when the UFL is responsible for that, the primary tenant is and will always be the University of Connecticut. But we're happy to share it with them, and obviously you build a venue like this to have events, and so we're happy that we'll be able to share it with the University of Connecticut, and adding a turf field will give a lot more usage to it, not only to the UFL but to other events that can come here. It doesn't preclude soccer from coming, because even in venues that have it, they sometimes cover it and put grass back on the field when they need to. So I think in many ways it helps expand the usage of the facility, and if we can share in the cost of that, then it's a win-win for everyone.
Michael's probably better at answering the number of jobs there and what would be created, I think. But I want to go back to your question to him just a moment ago. We look at the UFL right now, obviously, as a new entertainment venue here, but they are a tenant. And, you know, they will pay for renting this space, et cetera. As far as jobs, I'll let Michael answer the question on jobs.
Sure. Each game, there's usually 60 to 100 people that we employ for the games. We'll have a staff of about 30 people here. Our players will take in about $5 million collectively during the time that they're here. Regrettably, they tend to spend most of it during the time that they're here. So impact-wise, I think you know, we haven't done a significant study from just the 6 weeks, but you know, our estimates is that we'll spend at least $5 to $10 million in the market this year. That's without weighing the national broadcast that will be here every day from a media standpoint, where games that are played in Rentschler Field that will be reached to a national audience.
Jason Page, ESPN Radio, Hartford and New Haven, to the owner and the commissioner. You know there are going to be the skeptics that say, here comes another league, we've seen this, done that. What's going to make this different? Why should people believe this is going to have staying power?
Thank you, Mike. Sure. Well, of course, that's a question we have and still think about all of the time, because if you look at the history since you know, way back with the AFL having started and merged with the NFL, there's been a perfect record. It's, I think, either 0 for 6 or 0 for 7, and so how are you going to make it 1 out of 8? And we did a couple of pretty interesting studies. One was, well, what happened with all of those leagues? You know, why did they fail? And some of the research we did, there were 2 common themes that ran through all of the leagues. And there's sort of then a sub-level of other issues. But the 2 primary issues, one, costs, where they couldn't control their cost and they were losing money on an almost endless basis. And number 2, owners that were not on the same page. And that manifested itself in a number of ways, suing the NFL, signing people to personal service contracts. And so the structure and the business model here is quite different. From a cost standpoint, and I'll try to do this as quickly as I can, if you think in business where you would have a holding company and operating divisions, you have an option of putting a lot of infrastructure jobs either at the divisional or the holding company. Here the divisions are the teams and the holding company is the league. And so last year we had just about everything at the holding company or the league level. It saved us a lot of money. And we gave our players a lot more than 62% of our revenues, because we didn't have many revenues. But they understand, as we get some traction on the revenue side, that their compensation will go up as well. So we think we've done about as well as we could in trying to control the cost side. In terms of the owner side, which does tie back a little bit to the cost, is that the league owns 50% of every team. And the owners have known each other for a long time. And I don't know if picky is the right word, but let me just say we're a little careful of who we would have as part of our ownership group, because life is way too short to be in a business where you're not on the same page with your partners, okay? So those are really the two main things that we believe we're doing very, very different. Third thing we learned, I alluded to a little bit before, is that it became clear to us last year it really doesn't make a lot of sense in trying to be in NFL cities on a head-to-head basis. And there are plenty of NFL franchises that are in cities a lot smaller than places that we are. So that doesn't seem to be really an issue in terms of the media. So I don't know, Michael, if you want to add, or is that
No, I think that's fine.
enough? Or okay, thank you.
Our owners collectively spent about $35 million last year to fund the league, and we anticipated each team spending $15 to $20 million this year. And they funded that money last year so that we knew we had 2 years of operation. And so we expected losses in both of those years. So the outcome from the first year was exactly as we anticipated. And we think the outcome from this year will be as we anticipate. And we expect to be very close to break even in year 3. And I think the significance of that is not just that the owners are putting a lot of money up, it's that they're committed to the outcome of this. And so it's at least a 3-year process for us to see what happens with this league. And so I think there's a significant investment, and we have the right ownership group. We've turned down much more people than we've accepted in the ownership group. And when you're trying to start franchises, I always think, gee, here's a guy willing to write a $20 million check. There aren't a lot of those people. But they vet them pretty closely, and they've learned from prior leagues that the wrong owner can immediately unravel in an entire league. And so we've been very resolute in terms of who comes into the league and to make sure that we speak with one voice.